Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast. This is episode 17, and today we're talking with Marc Rosenblum. Marc is a father of three, a 9-year veteran of the Boston Marathon, running for Dana-Farber and raising $120,000 for them.
Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast with Jen Klein, a certified fundraising executive and philanthropic entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you to make a difference in your community and our world. Jen believes all acts of kindness matter, and this show is designed to help you take pride in your everyday actions of improving the lives of others and making a change in the world. Now, here's Jen.
Welcome to the show, Marc. I'm so glad that you mentioned to me that philanthropy is one of the most fulfilling aspects of your life, and you enjoy showing your true colors to friends and family regarding your fundraising for the Dana-Farber for the last 9 years. Can you tell me more about what you enjoy about running for the Boston Marathon Dana-Farber Cancer Research?
Awesome. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here doing this with you. Starting this off was really a bucket list item. It was, I want to run the Boston Marathon. And to run Boston, you either need to qualify. And as my running coach reminds me, I'm built like an out-of-shape middle linebacker. I wasn't built to run long distances. So I was like, okay, this is on my bucket list. How am I going to do this? And I'm going to raise money for charity. And back in 2013, my first year, there were lots of options. And I went through the list and said, what relates to me? There were probably 20 or 25 great charities to choose from. And I chose Dana-Farber as I lost my stepfather to cancer when he was 57 years young. And one of the biggest things that kind of has hit me is that I'm turning 50 this year. So when I lost him in my 20s, 57 seemed old. And now that I'm coming up on 50, I'm like, 57's nothing. It's for some people, it's just the middle of their life these days. So I chose Dana-Farber, and it's just become my family. It's amazing where, normally there's about 500 or so people on the Dana-Farber Marathon Challenge team. This year it's less, it's about 350 or 400. But when all of a sudden we're all fighting for the same goal, it's incredible. And even this year, other teammates have encouraged me to come on, do a little bit more. And in normal years, I'm able to do big fundraising events or bigger things. And this year, it's been harder. So it's more just been a lot of direct outreach. And I'll raise more money this year than I've raised any year so far.
That's amazing.
And I think the biggest thing for me, Jen, is that it's fun. It doesn't feel like, oh, I have to do this, as I'm embracing the sounds of my whining children. But that I enjoy to do it. And the other part is that I get the honor, and that's really the way I look at it, of running the Boston Marathon, probably the most prestigious marathon that's probably in the world, definitely not in the United States. And it also shows it makes me exercise. So even when I don't want to exercise, I have to go exercise. And it's a great example to my family and friends, and especially the kids, like, what do you mean, Daddy? You're first going out at 9 o'clock at night, and they're putting on my headlamps and all my reflective gear. And it really, by deciding to run for Dana-Farber back in 2012, 2013, it really has become a whole family thing. It's not just I'm the one who does the running, but it's a whole family affair, which is great for me personally, because I get such satisfaction from doing it, but really what it does for my family and what the example for Seth and Rebecca and Olivia, and, even just you and I having this conversation today, this wouldn't be happening unless I, was doing this. So.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, our children are friends and have been friends for several years now. This was one of the first things we talked about, is your run and my excitement for you, because I'm a fundraiser, and fundraising is fundraising for me. As I have said on the podcast before, and like to share that I don't believe fundraising is pulling teeth. And clearly with your success and the joy that you bring to fundraising for Dana-Farber, I can tell that it isn't pulling teeth for you either.
Yeah, and I think, at the beginning, I would take it personal if someone would say no. What do you mean? No, you're not gonna and then I'd be like, you know what? It's great. And what I would encourage people to do is, even if they weren't going to donate to Dana-Farber, I would ask them, find a cause that's important to you. And sometimes people will say, no, Mark, I can't donate to you because I've already donated to American Heart Association or diabetes or whatever cause is important to them. And I care really, as much as I'd like to raise money for cancer research because it's important to me, I care more about people being philanthropic. And this is the other part of fundraising that's been fascinating to me. I have some friends who are uber wealthy, and they'll donate, and it's like, really? Like, I go to that judgment place of like, that's all you're going to give. But I'm grateful for all donations. The ones that really touch me almost more than anything is when I know someone who's down on their luck, when I know someone who's really struggling, and they just see that raising money for cancer research and for Dana-Farber is so important. I'll get lots of $5 donations. Right? They just want to help.
That's amazing.
And they often feel bad. They're like, Mark, I'm so sorry I can't do more. And I say, you know what? Every dollar is what makes a difference. And that's really how I look at it, right? What I love is someone to, donate $100,000 or $30,000 or $20,000 or a big number. Sure, it makes my life easier as a fundraiser. I'm not going to say no. But this year we're on target to get about for my fundraising, we're on target to get about 350 or 400 donors this year.
That's amazing.
Which is great. And a lot of it's outreach, and a lot of it's asking, and it's a lot of social media and Facebook DMs. But it just becomes fun. And when I can look at it as fun, it's easier. Like you said, the fun in fundraising. When I go to a negative context of like, oh, this is horrible, I come across that way and people aren't enrolled. I'll tell you, Jen, what was really fascinating. Someone said to me recently, Mark, you love doing emails and Facebook posts and stuff like that. You know what moves me? Picking up the phone and call and ask me for a donation.
Oh, wow, Mark.
And that scares me a little bit, right? Because I can mass do things like, I'll be on a conference call today. I could be like Facebook DMing, right? And I started making phone calls last night. Everyone's like, you know what? Thank you so much for asking. I get so many emails. I've seen all your messages. I don't really read them because there's so much stuff. But what I really got is that direct ask. And I'm in sales. So you would think for me, like, it wouldn't be nervous. Like, I'd just be like, hey, I'm doing this. I'd love if you donate. The butterfly's still going. I'm feeling it right now in my chest, like how I felt on some of these calls I've done this week. People have said, they're willing to give more because I asked them.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't email them. I asked. I used my words, told them why it was important to me. And someone who was giving me $100 in the past gave me $150. Someone who gave me $250 gave me $500 this year. They were just super touched by what I'm trying to do. So I've kind of learned that there's no right or wrong answer on how to fundraise. It's whatever works for you and whatever makes you feel comfortable. And also sometimes whatever makes you feel uncomfortable is the way to go as well. So
that's true. I've just, when you were talking, it just reminds me of so many themes from the first season regarding how important it is to involve family in fundraising, about how it's so great that people thank you for asking them. That's a common theme that I had in my fundraising career. And like you said, with sales, you're not selling something tangible. So it is more meaningful because you're selling your vision for a better world, really. Is like, let's, get rid of cancer. Let's kick cancer in the butt. And for people to join you on that journey of, helping people. I'd love to hear about your involvement with some of the individuals that you've helped support at Dana-Farber.
Yeah, so a great question. When I first started running, Dana-Farber has a couple of different programs. One is a patient partner program, and one's an in-memory program. So I got to run for a young boy who was diagnosed with brain cancer or brain tumor, which same thing that took my stepfather from me at a young age. And I really got to develop this bond with this young boy who's now a full-grown man. He's 19 years old. He's thriving. And his parents really talked about how challenging it was. That driving from, out in where we are, Littleton, Mass, Boston's not that far, but it's still a drive to get into Dana-Farber in the Boston area. But knowing that they were taking their son to world-class care meant more important, meant everything in the world. They were willing to sacrifice everything they had, for their son's health. And it's fun now that when I'll see him and he'll start giving me a hard time. But when I met him, he was a shy, awkward kid. In 2017, Dana-Farber has a tradition that the bridge that goes over the Mass Pike by Fenway Park, Dana-Farber kind of takes over that section. I don't think we really can, but we just do. And that's where the patient partners and other people that are supporting Dana-Farber often be. And he's like, hey, can I run the rest of it with you?
Oh my gosh.
and technically, you're not supposed to, it's just supposed to be the runners. But I was like, what is really is the BAA, is the Boston Athletic Association, the police department, going to give me a hard time about me running with a cancer survivor when I'm running and as a charity runner, I start further back, so there's less. I'm not interfering with elites. I'm not interfering with people who are qualifying. Running across that finish line with him was one of the most amazing experiences of my life that I'll never forget. I'm getting a little teared up, and I'm glad this is a podcast and not a visual thing, but that I didn't want to start crying right then and there. I wanted to be able to hold it together for him and him not have to be like, Mark, what's wrong? Are you okay? Right? Are you in pain? And I remember we walked a little bit and his mom met us. And then literally that moment after, besides the joy of, voluntarily running 26.2 miles and raising a lot of money for cancer research that year, having that experience was amazing. This year I got asked if I would run in memory for somebody. And this is the first time in my 9 years I've run in memory. And it when they asked me, do you want to do it? I was like, okay, sure. But I didn't really know much. And I'm running for a young boy who lost his battle of cancer at 7 years young. And I use the word 7 years young on purpose because to me, 7 is not old. And it really, when I learned more about the young boy and his cancer and his challenges and the family support and all those things, it was around the same age as when the patient partner that I had originally was diagnosed. But more what scared me or kind of rocked my world is that my daughter is 6 and my son is 8. And to think that Seth has outlived this child by a year, or that Becca is still younger than when this child passed away, is scary. I said this the other day, and I said, sometimes I'm numb to cancer because I do so much fundraising and I know so much and I talk to so many people at Dana-Farber. But when all of a sudden you hear of stories like that, or, even a young girl in Littleton who our friends or kids with, who's been battling cancer for most of her life, it really wakes you up. It really shocks you. So I've been honored to be able to, run for people, both, that are alive, people who have passed. And unfortunately, cancer's just, it does so much damage to so many families. And not even those that we lose, but even people who still are alive, the ramifications. So knowing that I get to do something fun, which is run a marathon. Yes, I said running a marathon is fun. I get to raise money for cancer research, which has become fun. I know that I'm making a huge difference in the world. And that's more rewarding than any of it. Someone asked me recently, when are you going to stop running? And I said, you know what? I'll stop running when my body won't let me do it anymore. And they go, so you're going to stop fundraising? I said, nope, never. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Reflecting on how young this child was when he passed from cancer, and and you being able to cross that finish line with the child that you helped support live to be, what is it, 19, did you say?
Yeah.
um I can tell, I can feel the energy through our conversation about the impact that fundraising has had on you, not just in the lives of the people that you've helped change, but how meaningful it is to you, how helpful, of course, it is to making the world a better place, but also the people that you're talking to and reminding them about the importance of philanthropy and why we want to be doing more. And I just love that it's really a community aspect to running Dana-Farber for you and drawing more people in, showing them the vision, and telling the stories. And I can just see how blessed you were to be able to cross that finish line with your friend. I'm sure he's a friend now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the logistics of your fundraising. You said that it's your 50th birthday this year.
Yep.
And you've already raised 120,000. So how much have you raised this year? I think, when is the marathon? I think it's in October. I think it's
the marathon, yes, is October 11th. So I turned 50 4 days later. So I turned 50 on October 15th. So when this year started, I was like, what can I do different? What can I really do to push myself or challenge myself? And I said, you know what? I'm going to raise $50,000 this year. And the truth is, Jen, when I said it, I kind of felt like I was full of it. Right?
Did you get the imposter syndrome even about fundraising?
100%, especially for that amount, because the most I'd ever raised was like $21,000 or $22,000 in a single season for Dana-Farber. And I was like, okay, this is insane. And then literally there was one day I was walking back, taking the kids to the school they go to, which is all of 0.2 of a mile from my house. And I had this moment where I actually now believed it was possible. And then my context shifted from it'd be nice or this will be hard to I'm going to raise $50,000. And all my messaging between Facebook posts, between postcards, between mailers, between asks is, hey, we are going to raise $50,000. How can I enroll you in being part of it? That was a huge shift from like, it'd be nice if, to making it a thing. There's one thing I just want to hit on, one thing you said before about, the people and the impact. I've had the opportunity to talk to the researchers and the scientists and the doctors at Dana-Farber where the funds that our team raised goes.
Wow, that's so cool.
And literally, like, the gratitude from them is off the chart. Not in like let me give you a huge hug, right? But like just this like, thank you so much. But learning from them and hearing from them of how close they get with every dollar. Yeah. And I never had any idea how expensive cancer research was, right? Like how expensive these tests are to do, or these sequencing, or all the things they're doing. I had no idea. So I'm like, wow, they really need all this money. Sometimes as a layperson, before I would start fundraising, before I became a fundraiser, that's the right way to say it, I'd be like, seriously, like how much money do you really need for a test tube? How much money do you need for, and I really get how much it is. So it just, when I was thinking about community, I was thinking about that I really look at it as the scientists and the doctors and the researchers are all part of that community as well, just on a different aspect. So yeah, so I set this goal to raise $50,000, and I'm behind, and I haven't stopped. I actually doubled down my efforts over the last couple of weeks, or last week or so. And I said to someone in passing, hey, this is someone who normally gives me around $1,000. I said, can I use you as a way to generate more donations? Like, yeah, what do you want to do? That you'll match all the donations up to $1,000. So this was the week before Labor Day. He said, sure, no problem, go for it. So I put that there on Facebook, hey, if you've been meaning to donate, here's a great opportunity to get your donation doubled. And in the last 8 days, we've raised like $1,800 or $1,900. And then I went back to him and said, hey, I know you were only going to match $1,000. We raised like $1,900. Would you be willing to match $2,000 of it? And dear friend, he said, Mark, I love you dearly. And thank you. And thank you for the ask. No. But it was really interesting. Like we talked about before about where I had doubts or insecurities with fundraising sometimes. I had no doubt with having that conversation because I've developed this relationship. And this is a person who's been very generous to Dana-Farber, to Children's Hospital, to Brigham and Women's. This is someone who in general is just feeling very philanthropic. And he explained to me, like, I like giving to lots of organizations. I don't want to be, he said, I don't want to be tied to one organization. I like knowing that I'm making a difference in lots of different places.
That's great.
It's kind of like what I was saying about earlier, which is if someone says no, I just encourage them to be philanthropic somewhere.
You're right.
And that's like when someone messaged me back like, hey, Mark, I'm sorry I didn't give to Dana-Farber, but I gave to the American Wildlife, or I gave to a cause that's important to them. I smiled just as much as I'd like them to give it to Dana-Farber or to cancer research. I just want to see people give.
Right.
Because I know that when I'm giving, it just elevates who I am. It just makes me feel much more positive of life in general. Because a great friend said this to me. He said, think about these three things. Do you have a roof over your head? Yes. Do you have food in your mouth, meaning you know where your next meal is coming from? And are you healthy? Meaning are you not terminally ill? And I could, yes, and yes. He goes, great. You have a lot more than the majority of the people in the world.
Right.
And whenever I get kind of off my game, I'm just brought back to those things. And I've even said that to lots of people that I mentor on the Dana-Farber team as well. Like, hey, like it's okay they say no. It's not about you. It's just a no. Right. I learned so many life lessons, Jen, from doing this. It's really just made me just a better person. And that's to me the coolest part of the happy accident of all of this that I never saw at the end of the rainbow, which is I get to exercise, I get to meet new people, I get to do a good deed for humanity. And I never thought like I'd feel this way now of like, yeah, like I'm sought out for fundraising advice. Like, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, because in the beginning you didn't see any of that. You just saw somebody who, wanted to turn something terrible with what happened to your stepfather into something good. And look where you are now. Look where Dana-Farber is now. I love how you mentioned that you have this big goal and this big vision and you're just going for it. And of course, doubt always creeps in everywhere in life, right? And you mentioned the imposter syndrome. I have this blog post on my website, yourphilanthropist.com. It's called Believe in Order to Achieve. And that's really what fundraising comes down to is if you don't believe you can do it, then you won't. But clearly you have a vision, you have a goal, you're running the race mentally, as well as physically. And I love it. I'm so excited. You have, over 300 donors already. You have a month left. You're doing a remarkable job and you have a lead donor of $1,000 who, is so inspired by you and excited about what you're doing. It's really awesome. And it's important to remember, like you said, that for people starting off, there's a little bit of the intimidation factor of, wow, like even I think the entry level to participate for a charity with Dana-Farber is like 5,000. Is that right?
7,500.
7,500. So even that is a lot. And you're doing 3 times that this year, I think. So it's not easy to raise $7,500. I know that it really stretches people to get out of their comfort zone, which is such a good thing too, to get out of your comfort zone, see what you can do. And I love how Dana-Farber really connects you and makes sure you understand that there are costs involved, that there are so many people involved with helping the patients at Dana-Farber.
One of the things, Jen, I'm blown away by is that for the program that we raised the money for, it's called Claudia Adams Bar, which is like a specific program at Dana-Farber, that none of the money we raise goes to administrative costs, which blows my mind.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like so many times you're like, oh, I don't want to give to this cause because I read online that they take 70% of it towards operational costs. Now, I'm sure Dana-Farber is getting money other places that are covering operational costs, but it's really cool to think that like every dollar that we raise is actually going to the teams that are working on cancer research. Like that's powerful. It's like someone said to me, oh, I don't want to give because all these big organizations, they just, they pay themselves huge monies and this and that. I'm like, not one penny of this. And they're like, show it to me. And I went to Dana-Farber's site where it was. I'm like, here. And they're like, wow. I'm like, that's, yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, there are philanthropists who understand the importance of operations and who are interested in giving to operations. But that's the thing with nonprofits is if you want to give your dollar here, that's how you do it. Like they are going to accept what you're going to give them. And so when you say you have donors that are giving $5, well, to reassure them that it's not going to, buying a pen or a pencil for the doctor or, that it's going to buying a test tube and medical equipment that's necessary is really reaffirming to the donor that their $5 does make a difference.
Yeah. I look at it this way. I've said it a couple of times today, which is like, just be philanthropic, right? And philanthropic can be, doing a trash removal day on the side of a street in your town and reaching out to the police department and saying, hey, we'd like to do a trash cleanup. It doesn't need to be this. It's really just about making a difference. I just had this flashback, Jen, while we were talking. My first fundraising experience was like 15 years old. And it was a bike ride fundraiser for MS, right? I don't even remember. And back in the day, the big way to fundraise was, how much will you give me per mile?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I remember those.
Like those, that was the big way to do it. Instead of now people, it's like, very rarely do I ever get someone who says, hey, I'm going to donate to Dana-Farber to your marathon off the mile. Well, I'm going to run 26 miles, 26.2 miles. So like just whatever. But, I've had a lot of success because I've worked at it, and it hasn't always been easy. And I've raised money for lots of other organizations, and there's sometimes it's a struggle, right? Sometimes it doesn't go easy. Sometimes it is hard, but I think it's just a matter of starting, right? Just like I talk about running. When I first started running, my wife laughs at this story. She was much more athletic when we started dating. And we were going for a run and we came back and I was like basically throwing a temper tantrum on the bottom of her stairs as a 38-year-old grown up. I can't run. This is horrible. Like, she's like, you are pathetic. Right. And my wife is she's amazing. Right.
Yeah.
So we always go back and laugh when I come back from a run. And she's like, hey, it doesn't happen always, but hey, remember that like pathetic person was complaining on the floor? And now how many marathons have you run? And how much money? It's incredible. So I think that's the other part of the message, which is you just have to start, right? Running wasn't easy for me at the beginning, and now it's not that it's easy now, but I can do it. And it's the same thing with fundraising. When I first signed up, the minimum was a lot less. And I was like, literally almost giving myself anxiety attacks. Like, what if I don't raise the minimum? What if I can't do it? What's going to happen? And I really got like, if I can't do this, I was prepared to pay the difference for it. But it just kind of was like, as soon as I put out to everyone, hey, I'm doing this, especially the first year, the floodgates were open. Like people were like, oh my God, of course I'll help. Of course I'll help. But again, it's practice and it's time and it's effort, but it's besides being a parent, it's probably one of the greatest rewards I have of getting into the world of philanthropy.
Wow, that's a big statement. Marc, I want to take a quick break and come back and talk more about how you can inspire people to give back to their charity of choice. Hey y'all, I just want to remind you that I need you to subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. If you're enjoying it and want more conversations like this and want to help people get more involved with philanthropy, please subscribe, rate, and review. I want to thank you to the people who have already rated this podcast 5 stars. Please click to rate it 5 stars. And here is some awesome reviews. I love hearing the different stories from a variety of people's personalities. We all can contribute with the strengths we have in making the world a better place for all of us to live in. Here's another one. I really enjoy this podcast. It's encouraging to see that I don't have to be a multimillionaire who created a philanthropic foundation to impact people. It's my small gifts of my time and resources that add up. I am a philanthropist. And here's another. There are opportunities all around at an early age to remind us to look out for each other. It's a lifelong journey of seeing the opportunities and acting in them. Thanks for a great reminder. Listeners, please do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review right now so more people can hear more from us and learn more about philanthropy. And we're back. Marc, I'm so excited about our conversation today. You've done an amazing job fundraising for Dana-Farber, and you've touched on so many reasons to give back in different ways for philanthropic purposes. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned just before the break that just starting is basically the best place to start. And I just want to see if you can elaborate on how to get started.
It's a great question. I think the most important thing before you get started is to really get what's important to you. If I was raising money for a cause that wasn't important to me, it'd be really hard for me to fundraise because my heart wouldn't be there. My energy wouldn't be there. It would feel much more like a task than I don't want to say honor. That's not the right word I'm looking for. But so step one is find the cause that's important to you. More important than anything else. Two is start coming with some goals. Hey, I want to talk to 3 people this week, right? I have some people I'm helping right now on the Dana-Farber team who are just super behind in fundraising. And I'm like, hey, how many people can you talk to this week? I can talk to 50 people. Great. How many of those 50 people can you talk to about fundraising? Probably about half. Great. So first is find the cause. Second is coming up with a number. The fundraising, what you want to raise, it can just be breaking things down into how am I going to do things? How many people am I going to talk to? Or how many emails am I going to send out? How many postcards am I going to mail out? Whatever means of asking for the donation that you're going to do. But another big part is just having a community do it with you. It is much easier to do it with friends and family with you or supporting you than doing it alone. So I'll have something coming up the weekend of Marathon Weekend where I'll be me and family will be in Littleton Common in the town we live in with signs saying, hey, I'm running the marathon on Monday, please donate, right? And I'm having the signs made, and I literally will, once I know how many exactly, I'm going to be asking as many people as I know to go stand in the commons with me with these signs to see what I can do to generate. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think part of it's another part was family and friends and just not doing it alone because it can feel very overwhelming and stressful. And you said it a couple of times today, and I've said it about the fun in fundraising. I think that's the biggest part. Make sure you're having fun with it, right? When you're having fun, it goes a lot easier. When you're not, it's like, oh, I gotta go to the dentist, right? Like, instead, it's like, yes, I get to fundraise today, right? I get to try to make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think, cause 1, 2 was set goals, no matter what the goals are, if it's a dollar amount, if it's activities or actions. 3 is include family and friends, or just have a community doing it so you don't feel alone. And 4 is always making sure that you're having fun with it, because it's the right recipe, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not a good cook, but if I put those things into the pot together, I'll come up with a good stew no matter what, because I'll say it this way, it's the recipe for success for me. So it doesn't need to be the recipe for success for everybody, but for me, when I take those 4 ingredients together, I have success.
That's awesome. I love that. And when there are those times when you're having doubt, imposter syndrome, anxiousness about meeting your goal, and And all that negativity that creeps in everybody's life is a natural part of both fundraising and life. To get back to your why. Why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? Look what I've already done. Even if it's, raise $100 or even if it's just spread the word, raising $5. I'm also thinking about, you're mentioning getting the community involved, and how much people enjoy that, especially in this day and age during a pandemic when we're missing involvement in each other's lives, and the involvement your children have had in your life. And that was a theme of season 1 is the power of a role model, particularly a parent or a close family contact. And I'm just realizing that your children are so blessed to see you do this and so passionate about it too. And I can't wait to watch them grow and see, what they take on as adults, who have learned firsthand and been inspired by you and been excited about what you've done. I can't wait to see what they do in the world too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Not Dana-Farber, but just about being philanthropic and giving. So the first time I actually met my wife was at a philanthropic event.
That's so cool.
And when Seth was born, we couldn't go to the event that year because he was literally a day old, or 2 days old. And what did we do? We literally went straight from the hospital to the event so that we could introduce Seth to,
oh my gosh,
to this community.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and every year, my wife and the kids come with me, and it's really what they've done, and they've seen me how I lead, and they're like, "Daddy, one day can we do this?"
Oh my gosh. All the feels. Yeah.
Right. And like that, there are so many challenges and struggles we have as parents with little kids.
Yeah.
Right. I'm raising my hand. I was about to say, if you can relate, raise your hand, but we're on a podcast. You can't see me. But there are times I struggle. It's those moments that completely wipe out and kicking and the screaming and the yelling and the just not behaving well. Can we do this? Right? Yeah. That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Those moments. And I really look at it as like, what's that ripple effect? Right? Like,
yeah.
What will my kids do in the world? And my eldest daughter is 21, is a senior in college, is incredibly philanthropic. And I'm like, if I look at my legacy in life, right? And I got a lot more life to live, but I love that part of my legacy is going to be that I'm a philanthropist and that my family has become philanthropic because of my efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's big smile. Big smile. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you're going to be remembered. And I have this crazy blog post called How to Write My Obit. And, typically you don't want to be talking about death.
Yeah.
But when I think about, how I want people to think about me when I pass is I want them to write Jen was a philanthropist. And in today's day and age, the journalists aren't going to be writing about somebody who was a fundraiser and gave hundreds of dollars to charity because it doesn't make the headlines. But I want people in my everyday life to know me by somebody who really cared about charity and philanthropic work. And so it's kind of how this podcast was born. And I know that when your time will come, as all of our time will come, there's going to be a big star next to your name saying you were a big philanthropist.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of my favorite T-shirts is one of the T-shirts that you made. It's got a big globe on it, and it says philanthropist right across the middle. And I wear it a lot. And I think I wear it a lot because it's just who I am, right? Besides the fact it's an incredibly comfortable T-shirt. Like
glad to hear.
Yeah. Product plug.
Yeah, thank you.
But people who will see me wear it will say like, yes, you, like people who know me say, yes, you are.
That's so cool.
Right. And people often ask me who know me but don't know me well. They're like, what are you wearing this shirt for? Right. and I just start the conversation. And that's like, maybe Jen, maybe that's part of my, the recipe part we were doing before about the 4 things. Maybe the 5th part is that everyone wears one of your t-shirts, because the reason why I say it is it's a very natural enrolling piece where someone sees a shirt that says philanthropist, they're like, what's that about? Right. And all of a sudden it's just a very natural conversation starter of like, oh, this, right. So I think that's number 5. Everyone's got to wear a Jen Klein I Am a Philanthropist t-shirt.
Thank you.
Available at www.ihavenoidea.com. But
youareaphilanthropist.com/shop.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mark.
No problem.
But I do want to say about the vision of my merchandise is really to, like you said, to start those conversations and to ask people, well, what charity are you passionate about? And if Dana-Farber wants to put their logo on my t-shirt, I would love that, because it it really shows that we all can be philanthropists, and we all have a charity, a top charity. I'm sure you give to other charities as well, but Dana-Farber is at the top for you, and our listeners have charities that are the top for them. And I just want to make sure that they know how they can donate for you. Vote with their dollars.
Vote with it. I like that. That's you know what? Vote with your dollars is just so you know, Jen, my next email is going to be vote with your dollars.
Awesome.
Post day will be vote with your dollars. Yeah.
I love that. Vote with your dollars to help Mark raise $50,000 for his 50th birthday on October 11th. It's coming up fast. We need everybody to give $5, $50, $50,000, whatever they can do.
Whatever it takes, right? Yeah.
So what's your link to give?
It's dana-farber.jimmyfund.org, and then you could just type in Marc Rosenblum. I'm not gonna make the rest of it's too hard to get, but dana-farber.jimmyfund.org, and then you could just type in Marc Rosenblum, and I'll come right up.
Okay, so dana-farber.jimmyfund.org, and type in Marc Rosenblum. And I'm going to have that link in my show notes, so people can go to find it on my website as well, and in the link in the podcast. Awesome. Mark, I'm so glad you're here. I could have talked way longer. I want to make sure our listeners get back to their world and think about what they can do today to start, like you said. And your message was so inspirational. It inspired me. And I want to thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You are the kind of person who wants to improve the lives of others, but you need to take pride in your everyday actions. You Are a Philanthropist believes that every act of goodwill deserves to be recognized as philanthropy. Each individual action you take impacts another's life. Believe that what you do makes a difference. So call yourself a philanthropist and start a ripple effect of generosity that boomerangs back to you. Go to youareaphilanthropist.com/shop. Style your outside to match your inside. Choose a t-shirt, hoodie, or bag to show how much you love giving to others. That's youareaphilanthropist.com/shop.